big old introduction. Everybody know Mr. Principal Kafele. Thank you for coming, sir.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
You hear me all right without a mic?
Yeah.
All right, good. And let me also say congratulations to you as well. That's big time. You guys are putting in some work. Give yourselves another big round of applause. My question is, are you content with where you are?
No.
So you got some more things you want to accomplish, right? Right. So a lot of things I want to talk about today, but I promise you I'm not going to stand here and lecture all morning. I want to engage you in a conversation, which I hope that some of this conversation is somewhat uncomfortable. Principal Whedon talked about me motivating and making the attempt to motivate you guys, but I'm gonna contradict him now. I'm not in the motivation business, although folks think I am. I'm in the discomfort business. Let me distinguish the two for you in terms of what I do. Years ago, I've been in the speaking business for 33 years, in addition to being a principal and a teacher and all that. But years ago, I guess I did embrace that title, motivator. And then as I was getting older, I said, no, that's not what I want, because motivation, a lot of times with adults particularly, it lasts until you get to the parking lot. And then when you turn on the car, I gotta remember y'all sitting over here. When you turn on the car, you may not be thinking about that message that motivated you in that moment. But on the other hand, as I thought this thing through over the years, I said, but if I can, or anybody presenting, could say something that makes someone in the audience say, ouch, like a sting, so to speak, that makes you say, ouch, and it kind of stays with you, because when you get stung, it's not going to like disappear in a minute. It's going to be there for a minute, to use the slang. So I'm saying, I want to go places, I want to travel places and make some folks say ouch, because that's going to stay with them, and therefore there's a much higher probability that they're going to rectify whatever that is, as opposed to being motivated temporarily. That sting come, you're going to have that for a while, and you're going to keep thinking about it, keep reverting back to it, and that way young people ultimately are the ones who win. They're the winners. Because we said, I gotta fix this. I gotta cure myself of this ouch I got. So that's what I want to do this morning. I just want to share some things with you. I want you to go deep in terms of your own self-reflection and think about what it is that you do and what it is that you can do to become better and better and better at what you do. Just continually defying the odds. Because I know that there are people outside in the world here who probably look at your school and don't have the same expectations for it that you have. You know, I was certainly in those shoes. People looked at my school. I was the lowest performing school in my district when I got to the school. So everybody's looking at the school and kind of turning their nose up to it. And I told my staff, just as your principal, I'm sure you engaged in this conversation, I said, we're going to defy those odds. We're going to be number one. We're going to be the flagship of the district. And in about 4 years, we were just that. We were number one in the entire district. So it's all doable. It's all possible. But it requires a school full of folks who are committed to that common goal. Like I always say, the difference between a great school and a low performance school. One could look at a zillion different variables, but for me, I look at one. I say the difference between that great school and that low performing school are the adults in the building, period. Right? I got nothing else. You know, what's happening at home, the trip you guys are going to take to see the communities, to see the home life and all that. I mean, those are factors. But you and I, we can see it, but we can't control it. Amen. Right? All we can do is see it. So we see it, we enhance our knowledge base, our understanding of like that child that sits in the chair. That's just a fraction of a child. That's all it is. It's a fraction. There's a whole lot more life than what sits in the chair. So now you get to travel and go see where youngster lives. Okay, now you get a fuller sense of who this youngster is, but you can't control that. But here's what you can control: when that youngster returns to this chair. See, and if you and I can get youngster excited and sustain that excitement about self, about learning, about the prospects for his or her future, the probability for that youngster to walk in his dream, her aspiration, goal, etc., it increases exponentially. So that's on us. So I chose as a topic today, closing the attitude gap. And that comes from a book I wrote back in 2013, where, let me give you the backdrop on that, and then we're gonna have some conversation. I don't know who in here knows my story, but my story is one of a high school dropout, right? I was that kid that had stuff going on in his life, right? So the teachers saw me, they saw that face there, and they said, he's a nice kid, right? But they didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. So there was stuff happening behind the scenes, stuff happening at home, stuff happening outside of home, just stuff going on. So it had implications for who I was in the classroom. So I lost interest in school completely and just stopped going and fell in love with the streets. I'm from Jersey, so the streets of in East Orange and Newark, New Jersey is the area I'm from. I fell in love with that. The only reason I returned, dropped back in, is because I had a mother who was just determined that I'm not going to lose my son. That's it. So I went back for her, but it didn't work out the way she wanted it to. So I went back for her, and she put me in a Catholic school because she didn't think that public school was going to work for me. So they threw me out of there in 4 months. Say, leave, keep your money. So she put me in a local public school. I never showed up. She said, go live with your father. I went to live with him, my third high school in 2 years. He said, go back home to your mother. So then we moved to another part of the state, and I never embraced that, nor did they embrace me, but I stayed in school and graduated in 5 years with a 1.5 GPA. That means I did nothing. I just showed up. I played basketball. I did well, so they let me play. And but then after those seasons were over, counselor said to me the day before graduation, all right, this is it, you graduate, what you gonna do with your life? I said, I don't know. He said, well, I don't see you amounting to too much of anything. No problem. I'm too far gone to be insulted by that. I'm insulted by it now. But back then, I was too far gone to be insulted by it, so it was like no big deal. So I lived out that vision of me for the next 5 years. I did nothing. So then I'm watching my friends graduate from from college, getting on with their lives, and I'm a 23-year-old with the intellectual capacity of a 13-year-old, because I haven't grown in 10 years. So I said to Mom, I'm going to school. I just need you to pay for it. I got to catch up to my friends. I got to do something with my life. So I went on to school. I graduated from a 4-year school, Kane University in New Jersey. I graduated in 2 years, summa cum laude. So the question became, how? Everybody, how? What'd you do? How'd you do? We know you. And the answer is simple, y'all. It ties into your school now. The answer is my attitude shifted. But I needed the right structures. I needed to be in the right situation for my attitude to shift. So in other words, said differently, that 13-year-old that made the decision to leave, there was something there. There was something right there that needed something to unleash that which was right there. See, it's just laying dormant. Think about your young people now, now I'm on them. You got all these young people in the school, 7 to 12, who, some of them are just exhibiting for you clearly that they are superstars intellectually. You just see that. But then you got another percentage in the building who are also superstars, but for whatever reason, they're not showing you that. Then you got another percentage in the school who are superstars, but they don't realize what they have, right? So you got these various categories of young people who are brilliant, don't realize what I got, know what I got, but don't want it, or just, I'm ready. So you got, and then everybody in between. So the question becomes, what do you do with those youngsters? See, for me, I want you, if you haven't read this book, I want you to read this. This is my first ask of you. I stumbled on the book because everybody asks the question, what changed you? I stumbled on a couple of books, but in the context of the work I do now, I want to share this book. The book was The Miseducation of the Negro.
All right.
That was my game changer. That was my epiphany. The Miseducation of the Miseducation of the Negro, written by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, 1933. The founder of what was once called Negro History Week, which became Black History Month. The second African American to graduate from Harvard University with a PhD. A dean, professor at Howard University, an author of 16 books, a publisher, and a whole lot of other things, historian. But this book, it was a game changer, but more specifically, there was a paragraph in the book that I didn't even need to read the rest of the book. The paragraph did it for me. I want to share the paragraph with you. He said, when you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or over yonder. He will find his quote unquote proper place and he will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he'll cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary, period. So I read that paragraph, I'm like, wow, I need to read this again. And I read it again and again and again and again. Just kept reading the paragraph over and over, and I said, this man is talking to me from 1933. He's saying, as long as my thinking is controlled by outside and external forces and I have no control over my own thinking, then I pose no threat to anybody. But the day that I begin to think critically and analytically for myself is the day that I'm unstoppable. See? So I took that, and that was my springboard to become an educator, a teacher, a principal, etc. And I said, as a teacher, as a principal, my focus is not on academic achievement. Hear me, somebody. That ain't my focus. My focus is not academic achievement. My focus is not test scores. I will raise those test scores. I will raise them through the roof. I will defy the odds, but I will not put all my energy into test scores. Hear me. My energy is going into the transformation of the attitude. And if when I say I don't want to give the impression singularly Principal Kafele. I'm saying the collective I, us, right? I'm just leading the effort as the principal. If I can put us in position where attitudes start changing, where youngster looks itself and says the proverbial words, I got this. That's all I need. If I can get staff and students, parents to say, I got this, we done. It's a wrap. The math will take care of itself. The English will take care of itself. The science, the history, the etc. will take care of itself. So say it differently, if I can change the attitude, the content will follow. You see? That's where I'm at with that. So that takes me here. Somebody jump in here before I go any further though. What are your thoughts about the power of attitude? Don't be bashful, somebody. What are your thoughts about the power of attitude as it relates to your journey right now? What do you think? Don't be bashful.
The book makes you uncomfortable, my brother. Or at least it did me.
Appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
It does. Made me uncomfortable.
Amen.
Made me uncomfortable. It made me say, well, what have I been doing all these years? Right? I mean, I'm born to do big things like everybody in the room. What have I been doing all these years? Hanging out, smoking marijuana every day, drinking malt liquor. You know, that's how I'm living. That was my thing, right? Just wasting away, right? So I read the paragraph. He's like, hold up, buddy. Where's your thinking? When you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. So if you got the youngster coming to the school and the thinking is controlled by outside forces, external world, he ain't thinking about what you got. Because what you got is the answer. But if he's in a situation where there's distraction, then what you do is not necessary. It's not relevant to his life. See? Appreciate that. Somebody jump in here. What do you think? What do you think about attitude? Because sometimes we focus so hard on the academic side. What do you think about the attitude as it relates to what we do? My
I think
claim.
attitude helps build relationships. That's one of my things I try to pride myself in, building relationships.
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely. How are we going to do this work successfully at an optimal level and the relationships don't abound? Right? And I don't mean just staff to student relationships, but I mean staff to staff relationships and student to student relationships and student and staff to parent and community relationships. All those relationships, they matter. But those collegial relationships between us, anybody new in the room? Like first year? Got two? Second, how about 2 years? And 3? All right, so the 1, 2, and 3. Imagine, if you will, I know this is not your reality, I'm just being generic here. But imagine the 1, the 2, and the 3 coming to a new school. And the 10, 11, and 12 don't embrace them, right? I know this is not you, this is somewhere else down the highway, right? Down the road somewhere, right? Down the cotton fields, right? So, that's an inside, I'll let you in on that one later, right? I had to pull over on the shoulder and just take a picture. It was messing with me. See, I'm from the north, y'all. Right? Yeah, I'm from the north, so when the northern cat, oh, y'all know, yeah, well, you know what I'm saying, when a northern cat is driving and the cotton fields are right there, you can't pretend that's not there, right? You can't. You cannot ignore that. So I had to pull over, get out the truck, and just pray for a minute, meditate, take photographs, put on the Facebook page, and I noticed that's blowing up now, right? Because there's a bunch of northern folks on my page, right? So I don't know why I got into this, but you know, but it's good to be in this environment. But to be around that cotton, because you need that reminder, you need that constant reminder of the work to be done, right? So those relationships, that's where we were, and I got to the cotton field, but they matter. Anybody else watching before I go further?
When you say attitude, I usually say this one thing to kids when I'm trying to get somebody to do and they're not doing it, and I say, you know what? Whether I'm here or not, there's going to be a teacher in the room. I said, but you know, when you don't want to learn, it doesn't matter how many people are in here. But when you are ready, there doesn't have to be a teacher in the room. Yeah. You're going to do it. That's right. Because when you're ready, you're going to go for it. You're going to find a way to learn what you want to learn when you're ready.
Yep, when you're ready. So what you and I want to do, we want to expedite that readiness, right? But certainly when that youngster's ready, say, I didn't get ready until I was 23, right? And haven't stopped. But I said as a teacher and then as a principal, I can't wait for these kids to get ready, right? But when they're ready, they're going to take off. Let me see if I can expedite readiness so that we can take it to another level. And that's what I want to talk about today. But before I transition, let's talk about language real quick. I had a game-changing moment about, I guess it was in late August. I was down up in Cincinnati, and I was working with the leadership for a week. And it was interesting. Every day, it was a different group of leaders in the room. It's a big group, it's a big district, so just about 100 different leaders every day. But they would start the day the same way every day because it was a different group of people. And they would start the day with the deputy superintendent by going over their five district norms. And it would take about 5 minutes to go through them, these norms, and they said, these are our guiding principles. And one of them, because I don't remember the other 4, but one of them, it slapped me in the face. and I want to quote it to you. It said, "We will reframe deficit speech and deficit thinking." That's it. And when I read it and when I listened to it, it kind of stayed with me where the other four didn't. And all day long I'm talking to these folks, and this thing is on my mind. We will reframe deficit speech and deficit thinking. I get back to the hotel late afternoon, and I'm sitting there thinking about that wording. I go to sleep, I'm dreaming about it. I wake up in the morning, it's in August. I said, reframe deficit speech, deficit thinking. I said, man, this thing is in my soul. So instead of getting ready to go for day 2, I processed it a little bit more. And this is what I came up with. I said, here's why this thing had been bugging me all this time. I said, because deficit speaking is a reflection of deficit thinking or deficit thought, which collectively creates a deficit culture, which ultimately produces or ultimately puts youngster at a deficit, right? And it took me 24 hours to process that to make sense. I said, man, think about all the young people. Let me give you this example, who have been exposed to the terminology at risk. Let's talk about that for a second.
Labels.
Yeah, labels.
At risk.
Jalil is at risk.
At risk of what?
At risk of what? Imagine Jalil hears that. Now that's a fictitious youngster in my imagination. Imagine Jalil hears that I'm at risk, that I'm amongst the at-risk population. As principal said, at risk of what? At risk of failure, at risk of incarceration, at risk of murder, homicide, at risk of homelessness, at risk of what? But I'm at risk now. I got this connotation associated with me. I said, but so now what we've done, we've stigmatized Jalil. We say you're at risk, as opposed to you're at promise. You're at highly possible. You're at highly probable. You're at potential, right? I said, so we stigmatize Jalil, but in turn, we stigmatize ourselves every time we see Jalil. Because we see Jalil as at risk. If I see you as at risk, I'm bringing the at-risk version of myself to Jalil. So if my valedictorian is sitting here, I'm bringing something different to this youngster than I'm bringing to Jalil, right? So I'm stigmatizing Jalil and myself simultaneously because of my deficit speaking, which is rooted in my deficit thinking. But then if collectively, and I don't mean your school, but if collectively, that's how we get down, that's how we roll. Y'all don't mind a little slang, right? So if that's how we do, then we've got a culture of deficiency. We've got this deficit culture here, which is ultimately putting children at a deficit unintentionally. See? So you and I have to be very careful about not only the language we use, but where it's rooted in the thinking that we bring to young people all the time. See, when I walked into my last school, which was called North Tech, and I told my staff, my first day there, that we would be a national force to be reckoned with. That was my words. I said, we will be a national powerhouse. We are going to achieve the unthinkable, the unimaginable. They all sat there in the seats, like just in the room just like this, looking at me sideways. like is this, and I could read them like, is this guy crazy? Does he know who we are? I said, we're gonna go to work. But I knew I had to go to work on the minds of staff as well. I needed everybody in that building to be convinced that our children were academic superstars, right? That's where you and I have to be. We've got to know it beyond the shadow of a doubt, convinced that these youngsters that attend this school are academic superstars, even when they don't demonstrate. Even when they don't demonstrate. So, closing the attitude gap, a classroom equity framework, right? By the way, before I switch screens, right here says Twitter. How many of you are on Twitter? I'm just curious. Keep your hands up for a second, let me see. All right, very good. Let me say this to the ones whose hands are not up. Let me respectfully invite you into the 21st century. Here's what I mean. Here's what I mean by that. I'm being respectful. I came on Twitter back in like 08, 09, something like that. I was still a principal. And the reason was because my students, my high school students, they convinced me that I needed to be on there. Now they didn't know I needed to be on there for my own professional development. They knew I was a presenter outside of school hours. They knew that with the various platforms of social media, they knew that that would increase my reach. They knew that, right? They knew it better than I did. So for a long time I told them, look, no, I don't need that. But then they convinced me, because they're a younger generation. So they're looking at the world through a different lens. And they convinced me, you need to be on social media. So I did it. It's one of the best things that ever happened to me. I don't mean in terms of me as an entrepreneur, but I mean in terms of me and my reach to be able to talk to educators worldwide, right? I could not have done that if those kids had not convinced me to go on social media. But then once I got there, I discovered that I'm not the only one on there. I said on Twitter, there's a zillion educators on here. There's some very prominent people on here, and they dropping information on there every day, 24/7, 365 days a year, including holidays. All this professional development. You and I never have to go to the conference, the institute, the academy, the whatever. It's all right there. The link is there, the video is there, the this is there, the that is there. It's all there. It's just a matter of you being in the game and having access to the information. So I don't work for Twitter. I'm not, I don't get an honorarium from them for promoting it. But all I know is when I'm in the front of a group of educators, I say, you got to be in this. Someone might say, well, Principal Kafele, hang on. I don't want to leave a digital footprint. You don't have to. You don't have to use your name. You don't have to use your profile. You don't have to use your photo. You don't have to ever tweet. You just want to see what other people in education are tweeting. Like, I learned that some of you in this building, the only reason you know I exist is because of a video I put out 2 years ago for New Year's Day, 2018, I guess it was, right? So it was called Your Attitude is a Game Changer. Without that video, you don't even know I was born, some of you, right? But because of that video, because it went viral, right? I'm sitting here, sitting in the living room with my family watching television on New Year's Eve, and I have a thought, make a video for about a 5-minute video for children to say your attitude's a game changer. Talk to them about belief, purpose, being serious, focused, diligent, disciplined, and resilient, right? And everybody watched it, right? And that's probably what got me in this room today, right? So I'm saying to you, that's how powerful this medium is, Twitter. Because all that information is, that answer that you've been looking for, like that youngster that comes into your classroom and that youngster that lacks focus, it's this apathetic, that doesn't want it, this whatever those qualities are, the answer's probably sitting right there waiting for you to click the link. You just gotta click the link, you gotta be in the game, right? So you never have to tweet in your lifetime. Just read other people's stuff. That's all it is. I just wanted to share that with you because I would be remiss if I did. So, for the next few hours, I just want to take you and watch some game film. Did Auburn win on Saturday?
We didn't play, thank God.
Oh, you didn't play? Okay. Georgia lost.
So did Alabama State.
There you go. Let me qualify that question I asked. See, every time I'm in Alabama, I'm in this state probably more than any other state in the country. I get more love in this state than anywhere else, right? And you come down here and you just mention football. Just mention it, like don't even say the whole word, just foot, right? and it starts going to this Alabama-Auburn thing, right? I know Tuskegee's out there, Alabama State's out there, but folks, and it's like, it gets like hostile sometimes, some of these rooms, right? Like you somewhere near Tuscaloosa and you mention Auburn to make a little example, a point, they're like, yo, not here, right? So, I'm like, sorry, right? Here's why I brought it up. Let's pretend they had a game. Well, they'll have a game next week, right? Win or lose, doesn't matter what they'll do on that following weekday, Monday. You all know this if you're a football fan. They're gonna go to a room. They're not gonna practice. If you're not a football fan, you might assume they're gonna practice for the next opponent. But if you're a football fan, if you're a sports fan, doesn't have to be football. If you're a sports fan, you know that they're not going to put on a practice uniform to practice anything on a Monday morning. That's not gonna happen. Instead, they'll come to a room like this, and there'll be screens up, and they will watch film all day long. But they won't watch it like you and I watch a game on television. They break their film down. They analyze it. They dissect it. They want to see what worked. Why did it work? What didn't work? Why didn't it work? What adjustments do we need to make? What do we want to sustain? What do we need to tweak? We want to break this down, and then that forms the basis for practice for the rest of the week, although we will continue to go back to the film and watch the film while also watching the film of the next opponent for the same reasons, so that we can be thoroughly prepared for that opponent because of the way we analyze this film. So here's my question for you all. If in the world of sports, in this regard, college football, if the film is that important, if the watching of film throughout a week is that important, then I ask you, how often do you watch your film? How often do you watch, analyze, break down, and dissect your film? Now, it's not a trick question. I don't mean a camera such as the one here. It's just not feasible to always have a camera and then watching that film, but we don't need it. We have a mirror. And in our film study, it's called self-reflection. I'm asking you the question, how often do you just hit that pause button of life? Just stop life for a few minutes, or at least stop your professional practice for a few minutes and just watch your film. Engage in self-reflection. Speaking for me, whatever successes I've achieved over my mission, I don't typically use the word career, but over my mission, if I wasn't watching that film every day, including now, I don't know that I could have achieved. Because the film, the mirror is so honest, right? And I'm making a distinction between self-reflection and kind of just thinking through or daydreaming. I'm making a distinction. See, the thinking stuff through, the daydreaming, it might give you a distorted picture of what transpired. But that deep self-reflection, where you just go deep on who you are as practitioner, it's going to reveal some things. And when I say self-reflection, in terms of, well, where do we start it? It doesn't start with when you arrive on campus. The self-reflection starts with how you woke up in the morning and what the process of when you woke up, how you woke up, and all the way to when you drove on campus. What's that look like? Like, let me tell you what I did not do this morning compared to what I did last night. Last night at some point, outside of watching sports, I watched a little smidgen of news, cable news. This morning, I watched zero news. But I watched a little sports talk. But I watched zero news. Let me tell you why now. I knew I was coming here. And I knew how important my attitude is to my presentation. And I said, no way in the world did I want to know what's going on in the world right now, in this time, in this space. I don't want to know. I'll figure that out on my drive back to the airport or later tonight. But I don't want to know right now because I don't want that to impact my thinking. So watch this language. So therefore I have to guard and protect my attitude. I got to protect it. See, you know how we can protect ourselves physically from harm, but I want to protect this. I want to keep it safe. I don't want negativity coming in here when I got an audience to speak to. When I was a principal for those 14 years, it was the same thing. I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't listen to it. But I kept an inner circle. My inner circle, if there was something that I needed, they felt I needed to know, they'd call me. Hey, Kafele, this happened. You need to be aware because it may have implications for your school. Now I knew because of the inner circle. But outside of that, I don't want to know. I just want to come into that school with an empty slate, with an attitude that's on fire that says that we're going to take young people to a level previously unimagined. See? But see, then I'm going to watch my film later that night. I'm going to go through the self-reflection. What was that process like between the time you woke up and the time you arrived at school? I'm taking that seriously, y'all. And I'm encouraging everyone in this room to do the same. Take that seriously. See, like since we're in this Auburn area, right? Team walk out on the field, look at an opponent, and get psyched out because of the opponent. It's a wrap. Before the game started, it's over, right? But then the film will reveal that. The self-reflection will reveal that because coupled with the self-reflection is the self-assessment. How dare any of us in this room, including me, wait for an evaluator of record to tell us of our effectiveness when that mirror will tell you in real time. You just got to go to it. It's going to tell you in real time. You ain't waiting for nobody to tell me of my effectiveness. That's going to tell me. And that's probably going to be harder than me than the evaluator. Because I'm going to be hard on myself. Because remember, I used that word mission. This is not my career. I don't have a career. I don't have a profession. I don't have a job. I don't have employment. I wake up to my mission, complete it, and go to bed at night and start all over tomorrow. That's a different mindset. That's a different attitude. See? So, you got that self-reflection, self-assessment, and then self-adjustment. What changes will you make? Will you string days together and whoever you were yesterday and there were deficiencies in the day, will you be that same person tomorrow? Or will you look at your film and make sure that you make adjustments so that you are somebody different tomorrow? You're gonna be somebody different. You can't be that same person if there were flaws. I don't want to be the same person. I want to grow between yesterday and today. So you got your self-reflection, self-assessment, self-adjustment, ultimately to self-improvement. Every day you're improving. Every day you're holding yourself accountable for improving. Who in the room has a thought partner? Thought partner. What do you think? You're not sure? Want me to tell you exactly what I mean by that? No, I mean, gentleman right here.
Yeah, I guess we could clarify.
When I say thought partner, that's this person in your life that you can be very vulnerable with. This person, and vice versa. It's this person that you said, I want to be able to bounce some things off of you, and vice versa about me, right? Tell me what you see in me professionally. Whether you have the opportunity to watch me in action, or I'm just honestly going to tell you what happened. And now this person, because of the bond between the two of you, the trust between the two of you, this person is going to be very open with you and tell you, well, here's what I'm hearing, and here's my assessment in terms of yourself based on what you said. Thought partnership, right? So that person becomes a human mirror in our lives, because this is someone we can be vulnerable with. This is someone that there's a mutual trust there. And now you can bounce. I have a thought partner in my life that I've had for a very long time. And now we can bounce things off of one another, and there's no harm to our relationship, to our friendship, because we've laid down the laws of what this is, right? The parameters, etc. So think about having that thought partner in your space that becomes that human mirror that sees you in action or hears what you describe in conversation, and now you guys grow together as a result. So that takes this to another level, because now you got a human being. You got somebody there that can be that mirror, can be that reflection for you along the way. All right, good stuff. Did you want to jump in?
You were saying the same thing.
Okay. Yes, sir. Appreciate you. All right, so thought partnership. So, anybody else? So with that said, let's get heavy now. What is the attitude gap? When I became a teacher in 1988, long before there was such thing as a No Child Left Behind law, the language achievement gap still existed, right? There just was no legislation in terms of No Child Left Behind to support it. But achievement gaps existed along racial, ethnic lines, socioeconomic lines, special needs, regular ed, language, etc. And if people want to create other distinctions, gender, whatever it was there. So I'm told in '88, we got to close the achievement gap. I can never put my mind around it. That was in Brooklyn, New York City. I can never put my mind around it. It didn't make sense to me. I said, so we're saying that, I mean, I understood the reality, but still now being on the job, we're saying that we got students on the one hand, on this side, who are not achieving, and then students on this hand, in most cases along racial, ethnic lines. So Black and Latino students who are not achieving at grade level, white and Asian students who are achieving at grade level, and then everybody in between. So I said, so the goal was, you got to close this gap. And I said, man, that doesn't make sense to me. Because the ones over here who are not achieving, they're like really smart. I just question whether or not they know it. I said, that doesn't make sense. So now I got this principle. Then I go back to Jersey, my home state, and start teaching over there, and they're talking about this achievement gap. Like, man, this don't add up to me. Then I become a principal. And I'm like, I'm listening to it heavier now as a principal. Now I'm responsible for the whole building. And I said, no, it's not it. I said, that's my concern. I'm not worried about an achievement gap because it doesn't even make sense to me. I said, I'm worried about this attitude gap. Let me define it for you. I said, the gap between those students who have the will to achieve excellence and those who do not. The gap between those students who have the will to achieve excellence and those who do not. In other words, I'm not worried about their skill. I'm not worried about their ability. I said, I'm worried about their will. I said, if you and I can successfully tap into the will of the youngster, then the probability for their success increases. I said, I'm not worried about skill, because once you and I tap into the will, the skill will take care of itself. But if that youngster doesn't want it, like imagine a youngster sitting in the classroom like this, figuratively speaking. I don't want this. I don't need this. Right? Youngster's brilliant as can be, but I don't see how this applies to my life. I don't see how this is relevant to my world after 3 o'clock. Well then, you and I could be the best math, science, language arts, reading, writing teacher ever born. But if that youngster said, I don't want it. I don't need it. If that youngster's in a neighborhood where drug dealing abounds, and he sees his peers making more money than many of you ever imagined making on the street, what I need to know about the War of 1812? Well, I don't need that. That's not relevant to my life, right? I got my school based on just self-identification. My last school, 90% of my boys said I'm Blood, Crip, Grape, Latin King, or MS-13. My school is gang infested. That's all right. We got that. Because we're not worried about achievement. We want to change attitudes. So now as we went to work on changing attitudes and lower scores in the district, then we wound up math scores 100% proficient. Language arts scores 100% proficient. Man, Kafele, how y'all do that? Did y'all cheat?
We didn't cheat.
Nah, we ain't cheat. How y'all do that? I said, because while you were trying to close the achievement gap, we were focused on closing the attitude gap. We said we want to change attitudes. And as we change attitudes, the achievement will follow. See, that was the focus. So here, I'm saying this made sense because I know the youngster is brilliant, as I said before. Just a matter of how we go about convincing youngster of the brilliance that you were born with. It's already there. So the three questions that kind of drive this thinking here, number one, are my students excited about themselves? If I don't have students sitting in the classroom excited about themselves, then this becomes problematic. So the question becomes, how do you and I get youngster excited about self? What I want you to do, just turn to your table mates for a couple minutes and ask your table mate, say, what do you do to get youngster excited about self? And then reciprocate that. And then let's come back and talk about it.
It was all 100% of what they can be.
That's what I'm hearing.
Not being average.
To see that they can. Why you gotta count
I always think at the home, didn't do any schoolwork. Just why are we here? Why is this matter? So trying to get them to you can have a lot of
what about you count?
see the connection between now. And that was the big thing. I know that's what he's thinking. Was trying to get there. I made that case over and over through that trade. I'm just trying to do it now.
What is that about?
For you, there's a connection between what you do now and they've got to see
Excited about yourself.
Well, I just try to get what happens. What you did in junior high.
right.
I guess it comes down to confidence. Right. Confident grades start knowing that. More than what you think.
Might take some work. That's the way they have it. That's what they got plans like they have. So I get it.
My classes participated. Everybody took this is a class where I usually have to do anything. Yeah. I walked around and passed out. I was just like, I'm so proud of I need to go.
Something good that you did this night. That was like keep stressing. Each class
And trying to stress.
It's called in there. So I'm the way you said. So I go.
Because my thing is, so I tell them, I say that if you come here and things stuff, like I gave you all the individual rooms for like just because this one person comes up this way doesn't mean Jim Martin. And it's about that process. And I said, there's a process. The process is just like you said.
About a minute.
Let's not worry about that.
Changing attitude, changing culture. Right.
Doing laundry.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, come on back, folks. Come on back. Are my students excited about themselves? Huh. What do you do to get a youngster excited about self? Particularly that youngster that comes in that lacks excitement for self. That youngster exists. I know I was that youngster coming up. What do you think, somebody? What did somebody say at your table? Or if you want to speak for yourself, feel free. What do you think? Don't be bashful. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Positive feedback about anything good that they do can get them excited about themselves, believe in themselves more.
I love it. And for those that didn't hear you, positive feedback about anything that they do.
One thing I do is I tell them, because I start with 9th graders, I don't care what happened last year, I don't care what happened the year before. I don't care what happened starting today.
Yeah.
And you know, even and I get mad at my kids sometimes, they're disappointed, and vice versa. And you know, I always tell them, hey, what happened today doesn't matter tomorrow. Yeah, let's put it behind us. And that seems to work a lot with our kids.
Yeah. So you're not gonna hold them responsible, holding over their heads what happened in the past.
Yeah.
We're gonna pick up from where we are right now.
I don't care what happened last year.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yes, ma'am.
I would do a give me three things that you do good, and that they don't have to be things related to school. Anything that you do good, and they expound on that.
There you go. There you go. So you're accentuating the positive. All right, something that they do good. Let's exploit that. Very good. Somebody else, what do you think? You got young people in the classroom who are not necessarily all excited about self.
But Ms. Jenkins said that I'm gonna call you out. And I like what she said, actually. I've heard it before, but it really is humbling to know that it's actually happening in more than just one class. She flips the script basically, instead of, like, she's a math teacher, instead of saying, oh no, that's wrong. Talk me through your thought process. Well, what can we do here? Instead of it being negative, no, that's wrong, she changes her verbiage to make it positive.
Yeah, it sound like some metacognition going on. You got them.
That sounds like hot and cold feedback, where you kind of be like, I like your answer,
Mhm.
can you expand on what's the best answer?
But see, what I like about that, you have them thinking about their thought process in terms of how they got to where they got to, right? And see, that's next level thinking. That's that going back to what I said before about not being controlled, but thinking for oneself critically. Good stuff. And then see here, let's take that a step further. Let's assume, which I don't, I know you are. Let's assume that you're credible in the eyes of your students. Like in other words, you matter, right? Let's say your students trust you. And now here you are, with that on your mind, with your intention, and then that whole metacognition, and then the reinforcement as they arrive at the right answer. That's a powerful experience.
Well, in my room, it's just understood that it doesn't matter if you come up with the wrong answer. If you can explain where you're going, then we can get you there.
Yes.
But the big one is for you have to be willing. Let's try.
Yeah.
As I tell, and the biggest one I say is if I go out there right now, I said, you know, I picture Miss Jenkins trying to ride a skateboard. I'm like, you can imagine Miss Jenkins gonna fall. I'm gonna fall, I'm gonna hurt myself. I said, but I'm gonna try. So I'm gonna need you to do the same thing for me.
There you go. I like that. Good stuff. Good stuff. What do we do to get them excited about themselves?
I just have to be encouraging. You have to, if you come in with an encouraging mindset, and, you know, it trickles down. So you come in with a positive attitude, and when you're dealing with some students that don't come in that are so positive, and you just learn to just be a listening ear sometimes, and just learn, and just give them encouragement. A lot of kids need that.
Let's stay there for a minute. You know, I feel comfortable in saying that in any given school, and perhaps that includes yours, there's a percentage, I won't quantify it, but there's a percentage of young people who go home who are not accustomed to the encouragement that you're speaking of. Like, it's not a part of my reality. It's not because I have bad parents, but it's because my parents may lack the wherewithal to understand that those encouraging words can take me to another level. So for example, just the words, you're amazing, right? Or you're somebody special, you're somebody phenomenal, whatever it is. You have a percentage of students that have never heard that before, right? It's just not a part of their reality. So imagine that same youngster comes to school and the teacher takes that for granted, and I focus on what I'm teaching, but I don't take the time to infuse that with, you're an amazing young person, young man, young woman. You are phenomenal. You are extraordinary. Or, I'm in your corner through thick and thin, because I will never ever give up on you. I'm with you, right? So imagine a teacher feels that way, but never expressed it. Then here's a youngster who, from nowhere, the most significant people in my life, that at home and in school, I'm not hearing that encouragement. And that's what the void, and that becomes for this youngster in my mind, the void in his or her life. I'm not hearing that. Something that may be so common sense to many of us in here that we take for granted and we don't do it. I made a decision as a teacher, I'm not teaching a lesson ever until I first have shared those encouraging words to start the day. There will be no lesson until I've shared with them how I feel about them. But then I took it to another level as a principal. I said, I'm not changing. there will be no instruction in that building. First period will not begin until I have stood in front of that entire student body and let them know how I feel about them. See, if I didn't do it in person, in morning convocation, and over the VA system, whatever it was. Because I knew, because again, we're talking about the attitude gap, I knew there was power in reminding young people that you are extraordinary young people. I knew that was transferable to math achievement, reading achievement, etc. I knew that. So made sure that was part of the reality every day, right? So encouragement is strong. Yes, ma'am.
I like the way you phrased the child in the chair is only a fraction of who that child is, even though we know we're teaching the whole child on over that. If you take time to know that child, and you know their family, you know their community, you know their likes, their dislikes, and you can relate to that child one-on-one, not talking about academics, but just like Grace said, going to a child's basketball game, turn her relationship around with the child. You just have to know who they are, and you know that's their cousin or their brother, and just talk to them about those things. They get excited about who they are because they know that you see them as a person.
That's right. That's right. Excellent. Excellent. Because we're talking about building relationship and establishing credibility at the same time, so that my words actually matter. Right? Any Luther fans in here?
Hey.
And when I say Luther, now watch this, y'all. When I say Luther, if there's someone that says like which Luther, then you don't know Luther. If you sitting in here like which Luther, you ain't even in the game, right? But the one that knows Luther, like tell me your name.
Kathy M. Jones.
Jones. So is it Dr. or Ms.?
It's Sister Kathy.
Oh, Sister Kathy. Yeah. I'm in the South, man. Sister Kathy, right? So when I say, do you know Luther? I mean, I ain't even get the R out. See, because she know Luther, right? So see, Luther, that's like my guy. But when I was much younger in my 20s, somebody said, "But who's he talking about?" Luther Vandross, right? So when I was in my 20s, I would go see Luther when he came to New York, to Madison Square Garden. And, he sang all these ballads, right? And people come to the show, they want to hear like all the songs. So watch this. Luther says something that informed my practice as a teacher and as a leader, and I didn't even know, because I didn't know I was going to become either one during this era of my life. He would be on the stage, big revolving stage. It was a circular revolving stage. Mike stand right in the middle. The band was obscure, and the background singers. So he would stand on the stage and announce to 20,000 screaming people. He said, "I'm going to take my time singing these love songs," and everybody would scream, right? "I'm going to take my time singing these love songs," because his songs were long, and if you know anything about Luther, he's very detailed in how he delivers his songs, right? Like I used to say to my wife all the time, he must be hard on the band and the background singers, because this man is serious, right? So here's my point as it relates to you. Years later, I become a teacher. Years later, I become a principal. And I'm listening to Luther, like to this day, I'll probably listen to him on the flight later on. That's how much I'm into this guy, right? But he would say, "I'm gonna take my time." Well, I said, that's it. As a teacher, I can't get to know my students in some assembly, right? Student assembly. I can't get to know my students when it's 25 of them in the room, whatever the number is. I gotta take my time singing these love songs. I've got to get to know each individual youngster, because each one is different and each one has their own story. As principal, I kept that mindset. I said, I can't get to know them when I'm doing these assemblies. I got to get to know these kids. I got to get to know this staff. I got to get to know all the stakeholders outside the building, parents, community, etc. I'm going to take my time singing these love songs. I said, if I know them all, and I can call them by name and know their story, the content will take care of itself. See, I'm talking about attitude, y'all. The content will take care of itself. But going back to you now, I and you have to be credible. Because if we're not credible, let me break down what I mean when I say credible. You see this here? This is my facade, which represents my presence. So this table leg and this table leg are parallel. So let's say that this is the front, the entrance. And right now I'm outside. Now across this threshold, I'm inside. But I'm not saying anything. My mouth is shut for a second. Here's my question. My presence is communicating what? Let me see. What's your presence say to these young people? What message does your presence convey with your mouth shut? See, that matters. That matters. Because your presence is a reflection of your essence. See? You know, I'm gonna let y'all in a secret. I've never said that before, but didn't it sound smooth? Right? I have never said that before in my life. I shouldn't even be admitting that, right? But I should like that was natural. No, that wasn't natural. Your presence, like write that down for me, somebody, so I can get that later. Your presence is a reflection of your essence. Man, that sounds smooth, y'all. That might be the title of a book, right? So, it's all about being down here. And Loachapoka brought something out of me, right? So, I'm saying here, but even though that kind of jumped in my head, it's real, y'all. Your presence. Because I'm talking about your credibility. Are you credible? Is that youngster willing to hold on to your words, right? Hold on to your message. Looking forward to hearing you tomorrow. Like now they home. Can't wait to see my teacher tomorrow because my teacher gives me hope. My teacher makes me feel like I can soar. See, that's your credibility. You got to go to that mirror on that one. Who are you in the eyes of the people, the children, the scholars that you work with every day, right? So, what do you do with that youngster that may lack excitement about self? But let's couple that with, are my students excited about the possibilities of learning? Oh man. Does learning matter? Does learning matter? Here's one of the things I learned at a very early age. Professionally, I learned that learning matters when I see myself within the learning.
Amen.
See, when I see the applicability of what I'm learning to my life after the dismissal bell rings, then learning matters. Let me show you what I mean. Can I have 2 sheets of paper from you that you don't need back?
Which one?
The big one.
Okay.
You got enough?
Yeah.
That's okay.
2?
Yeah. I want to show you something. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. Got a photograph. This is a panoramic photo of each of you. And I took this photo unbeknownst to you. You didn't know I took the photo. And I got your cell phone numbers from Principal Weed, and I text the photo to your phones, and you felt the vibration of your phones because you had turned the sound off, and you pulled out your phone and you said, "Man, Principal Kafele sent me a photo," and so you looked at this panoramic photo of the entire group here, and more than likely, the first person that each of you looked for in the photo was yourselves. Why?
Because I might be telling you not to post it.
There you go. Because of what?
Because I don't like
Because you make, because of how they look?
it. No.
Because of how you look. There you go. See. Anybody else? Why? Why look for yourself? I love that answer.
Because you want to know that you're included. You want to know, was I in the picture?
Yeah.
You know?
Was I in the picture? Was I included? Did it cut me off since you're sitting on an egg? Right? Yeah.
Got cropped out.
It got cropped out. Yeah. Anybody else? Why look for you? Why not look for your homie sitting next to you? Right?
You wanna know-
Can y'all handle some of that
You
slang
wanna know
down?
if you matter enough to be in it.
Say it again.
You wanna know if you matter enough to be in it.
If you matter enough to be in it, man, we hold that thought. And I'm coming right back to it. If I want to know if I matter enough to be in it.
Or did I matter enough to whoever took the picture to get me in?
There you go. Did I matter enough to the person that took the picture for me to be present within the photo? Good stuff. Where's that hand? I thought I saw a hand. Yeah, I thought so.
Is it my best for me that they caught?
Is it my best me? That and you say that they caught. See, no, right here. Is it my best me that my teacher caught? Right? Because the difference between now and a second later could be a different angle, different shot. Right? Good stuff, good stuff. Who'd I miss? Why are you looking for you first?
Said we're selfish.
Because you're selfish. I just want to see me. That makes sense. Did I miss anything? Now watch this, y'all. This was your photo. But here's the thing. I've learned, we didn't use a bio today, but let me just say this part to you to give you context. I left my principalship in 2011 because I had one more life's goal. I got nothing else. I keep searching for more, but I got nothing else. This was the one that I hadn't done. I had been a speaker on the side for decades. But I said, I want to do this as an independent, self-employed entrepreneur. I want to prove to myself that I can reach the world, right? So I quit my job. I had no clients, not one, but I had 2 sons in college, right? I had a mortgage, so I needed money, but I had no means of making money. I was chasing after this dream. So now, immediately, because I was so hungry for it, I do about 200 presentations a year. But couched in those presentations is consulting. So I do a lot of consulting where I'm in school during the school day, and just doing various things. So I get to see some things. So I want to establish that I get to see some things that the average person will never see, because the average person is going to be in the school that they work in, where I get to see schools that are working all over the country in different parts of the world. So now, with that said, I walk into schools and I get to see children walk into classrooms, and as they walk through the door, which is over to my left, the teacher hands them a photo in every classroom in America. The teacher says, here's your photo. And youngster goes on and takes the photo. It has a seat. So youngster sits there and looks at the photo. And the youngster says, wait a minute, teacher. And the youngster says, wait a minute, teacher, for this reason. Sometimes I have this prepared, but I really had no intentions on doing this today. And the Spirit moved me. Right? So I had no intentions on doing this. Think about all those responses you guys just gave me. Youngster says, teacher, wait a minute. When you took the picture yesterday, I was sitting right here. And another youngster says, and teacher, I was sitting right here. And another youngster says, and teacher, I was sitting right here. And yet another one says, and I was sitting here, and it goes on and on. And then collectively the youngsters say to the teacher, teacher, what made you cut us out of the photo? I want you to think about all the responses you just gave. teacher, what made you cut us out of the photo? And the teacher's response looks like this here. I don't know. I don't know. I got to figure it out. In other words, let me bring you in. Yours was a photo. Children's is symbolically a photo. Theirs is called curriculum and instruction. And the youngster is saying, hey teacher, in this history lesson, where's representation of me? Like, where am I in this lesson? Where's that which I can identify with? In that math lesson, in that math class, hey teacher, like I hear you with these numbers, I hear you with these problems, but my question is, how does this relate to my life after 3 o'clock? Like where's me? Where am I? Hey, in that science class, hey teacher, I don't see what this has to do with me after dismissal. Like, where's me in the photo? Like, I had no intentions on doing this, at least right now. I may have done it later, but since I'm here, let me give you this, because I want to drive this home. I'm in Alabama today, and I mentioned to you earlier, I'm here more than any other state, I think. You know, it could be Texas because it's so large, might be another one, but I'm in this state a lot. What I didn't share, because I didn't really have the context to share it at the time, but I do now. Alabama is my favorite state. It's the state I want to be in, but not for professional development reasons, right? I mean, I do love the people that I meet and all that kind of thing, but there's another method to my madness. Alabama, it won't today, but I'll be here many times this year, going into next year. Alabama gives me an excuse to travel to Selma, to travel to Birmingham, to travel to Montgomery. It gives me an excuse. So I make long drives from different parts of the state, particularly to get to Selma. Because when I go to Selma, and my first time visiting the Edmund Pettus Bridge was in August of 2006. I was speaking in Montgomery, and I asked the principal, this is before I knew anything about booking cars and hotels and so forth. So, principal, can you drive me to the Edmund Pettus Bridge, right? So, you know, that would be unheard of today. So she said, sure. And you don't even have to tell me why you want me to take you. I'm gonna take you. I'm gonna bring a couple of teachers along with us because it's a long drive. No problem. So we get to the bridge. I asked to be alone. And I stand on that bridge for about a little over an hour, praying and meditating. And hear me well, somebody. I'm thinking about the 600, right? I'm like deeply rooted in the 600 and concluding while the 600 are on my mind that regardless of whatever accomplishments I make, I will never measure up to these folks whose names I do not know outside of the leadership. I know the leadership, but the ones walking behind the leadership. You know, I know John Williams, I know John Lewis, Hosea Williams, Amelia Boynton and others, but I don't know the ones in the back. I said, but whomever they are, I will never measure up to them, right? So now, as it relates to this, what I just showed you, with these two pictures. When I go to Selma, I typically make the drive to Birmingham immediately after. It could be very late at night, it doesn't matter. And then I go stand right by the window of the 16th Street Baptist Church where the bomb blast happened on September 3rd, September 15, 1963. And I go through the same ritual, right? So between those two, when I come to Alabama, I was just a little boy during both situations, 65 and 63. I'm 3 and 5. But I say, there's me. There's my story. There's my relevance. There's my, hear this word, y'all. There's my foundation of my work, right? I I can't deviate and engage in deviant behaviors knowing the foundation. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
See, I can't, I'm not going to get caught with my hands in nobody's cookie jar ever, right? Because the foundation is too solid. So I love when I get the invites to come to Alabama, because I can make that detour and go to those places, because I see myself in the photo. I'll never measure up, but I see myself in the photo, right? So Sarah Collins, who's a sister of Addie Mae Collins, maybe all of you know this already, she has become a friend of mine, who was one of the 4 young ladies who lost her life in the bomb blast, right? So I'm saying, I'm taking what I just said and I'm transferring it to this, right? Now I can make a little bit more sense for you of me stopping and taking that picture of them cotton fields. Like I pass a lot of things coming here from my hotel, but they weren't of relevance. But once I saw that cotton, I said, oh no, this relevant now, right? Let me pull this truck over. Now I ain't gonna take this picture from inside this truck. I'm walking over, I'm standing right over this stuff, right? So what went on over there, walked in this muddy grass and took the picture, and just had a moment of prayer, right? Because I said, I can identify. There's me in the photo. See? Now let's bring it full circle to your children. Are your children in the photo? Because see, if you put me in the photo, you got my attention. Put me in the photo, you got my attention, because I see me based on everything you guys said. You got my attention now. Hey teacher, I know you teach math and they say math is universal, but teacher, how does the application of this mathematics apply to my life? And teacher, if you can go a step further, can you show me the historical implications of the math and where a lot of it derived from? Now I really see me. See? But I ain't gonna get heavy like that, y'all. Keep that right there. Right, so, teacher, you gotta put me in the photo. I gotta see myself in the photo so that I don't sit in the classroom and there are holes where I was sitting, because then it takes me to, I'm not excited about learning because I don't see what this applies to me. I don't see what this has to do with me. I know there are things I have to know in life that are not necessarily related to who I am culturally. I get that. That's the youngster talking, not me. But while I'm sitting in this 7 to 12, keep it relevant for me, teacher. That's all I'm asking. Keep it relevant for me, teacher, so that I can see where I fit in the grander scheme of things, right? What are your thoughts on that, somebody? I went the long way on that, but I took my time singing these love songs. What do you think? Yes.
I think this is just a personal thing. I think relevance is a slippery slope, because although relevance can help with motivation, you still have to have the discipline to do it. So I believe, and it kind of goes back with what you were saying earlier with don't worry about the test scores. I think helping the kids to find their place, if nothing else, whatever you put your hand to, try to be your best at it. Try to get the most understanding out of it. Try to be the best version of you while you're doing that particular thing. And I think that is where, if nothing else, they can begin to change the attitude that, hey, whatever I'm doing, I have to be my best at it. But the idea of relevance, it kind of, it just kind of confuses me, I guess.
Well, let me clarify for you. I'm using the word relevance loosely. Let me be a little bit more specific. I'm saying culturally responsive, culturally relevant, and equitable.
So right? That becomes more of like an interaction in how we present the information?
Interaction and perspective.
Okay.
So that when I'm, like, let me give you this example. I just had this thought, it popped up. Remember when that movie Black Panther came out?
Hey, hey, hey.
Remember how the world got excited? Y'all remember that about 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't one of the ones that got excited for the sole reason that I'd never heard of the character, because I'm not a comic book guy. So, you know, when I think of Black Panther, I have to think of Black Panther Party or Lowndes County, Alabama. Right? See, I can say that in Alabama, but I can say that in some other state, they're like, what are you talking about? Right? The original Black Panther, right? Lowndes County. So that's where my mind was, but I'm like, okay, between Lowndes County and Oakland for Black Panther Party, what is this excitement about this film? I don't understand this, so I had to research it. I said, oh, okay, it's a comic book character. And it's got this African theme to it, right? So I said, okay. So now, fast forward, the excitement builds, the excitement builds, excitement builds. It's opening night. Black America was excited, right? We know that, right? Excited. I didn't go opening night, but I watched my social media feed, and folks were wearing their African attire to the movie theater, right? And they were taking pictures next to the cutouts. And it was all this excitement. It broke all these records. So I'm reading. Watch this now. And I said, okay. But I'm noticing something in my thread. And here's what I'm noticing. Folks are saying, I love the movie, but the audience is talking a lot in the movie. I said, okay. Now, because of my historical and cultural background, I already understood what I was reading. I didn't have to interpret that. So I saw it a few times. The audience was too loud. The audience was too loud. Okay. Now I can't wait to get to the movie the next day. Not to see the film. I want to see this thing they're talking about. So now I'm in a theater in a black community. So it's all African Americans. And just as the thread was saying, the folks were talking throughout the movie loud, right? But I'm looking at it through this cultural relevance lens. They weren't talking to each other, which I knew when I read the thing, even though they didn't say that. They were talking to the screen.
Say it again.
Yeah, I know, it's worth saying it again too. They were talking to the screen. It was cultural, it was reminiscent of call and response in the Baptist church, right? So now, my wife's not an educator, so I'm all excited. I'm talking loud when we get out the theater about the experience, and she's like, what are you talking about, right? I said, look, this has professional development implications, this experience we just had. Because imagine if there were folks in the theater outside of the community who are not accustomed to being in this setting and experience the volume of talking and leave with the wrong conclusion, right? Because culturally, it's not what I'm accustomed to. So now, I said to my wife, because I'm not doing it here, but other places, if I have the right context, I spend a lot of time teaching on this, right? And I'm saying here, in terms of you and my dialogue, if I don't understand that in a broader context, I don't know what I just saw. It's just like if I go to a funeral and it's a big celebration, but I don't understand that culturally, then I don't know what I just experienced. If I got a pastor saying we too quiet at a funeral,
All right, my brother.
and we need to be celebrating this life, and I'm not from that cultural background experience, I don't know what that is.
Say it again.
Yeah, so now that has implications for the classroom, because I may be in the midst of students and I could be of the same racial ethnic background. Don't get me wrong here, folks. One could be of the same racial ethnic background but not understand culture. So now I'm in the classroom, and because the children are very different from what I'm accustomed to back home, I may mislabel, misunderstand, misinterpret the experience, right? because I don't have that cultural lens, that filter to make sense of it. So I'm saying here, when I say cultural responsive, that means I gotta know my kids. So that whatever it is that they bring, I understand what that is. In terms of the relevance, let me be very specific, because I want you to leave out here saying, okay, I get it now what he was saying. You see these lights up here? To use a very simplistic example, when I was in school, some teacher somewhere, some grade, I don't know what it was, but it sure did stick, whoever it was. They said Thomas Edison invented the lights. That's okay. I mean, I didn't question that. I'm like, okay. And then for the rest of my life, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. See a light bulb? Thomas Edison. And then when I went through my metamorphosis in undergrad school, and I'm reading all this history, in addition to the miseducation of the Negro, I stumbled on a book called Blacks in Science by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. And it had a chapter on a man by the name of Lewis Latimer. I never heard of Lewis Latimer. So now here's this man, Lewis Latimer, and he was an assistant to Thomas Edison. And the Edison bulb, these are not them. They're not in this room. In fact, you've never seen an Edison bulb. The Edison bulb blew out almost as soon as you turned it on. It was dangerous, it was expensive, and thereby was impractical. So his assistant, Lewis Latimer, African American, he said, hey, Mr. Edison, I got this. I'll fix that. It's missing something. He said it's missing what's called the carbon thread filament. He said, let me insert that into the bulb, and it's going to work like these. So he put that into the bulb, and if anybody's in disbelief, Google it, right? Amen. Just Google it. He said, I'll put this carbon thread filament in here. That bulb will sustain its glow forever, until it wears out, right? So, but then he didn't stop there. He said, I need to write a book about this. He wrote the first textbook ever written in America on electrical lighting. Now, let's look at your kids when we talk about the word relevance. You and I can't afford, I'm watching this video on the plane last night, and it's in my psyche right now in the context where I'm going. You and I cannot afford for our children, particularly your black children, who was your majority, to leave away thinking that my career options are either NFL football, NBA basketball, or a hip hop career, and then that's it. That's my three options in life. They can't afford that.
Yep.
Because they were born with so much more.
Yep.
Right? So now I have to be so culturally responsive and culturally relevant, and not some February add-on, but just this is who we are genuinely speaking, that if I'm talking about electricity, I'm gonna throw Lewis Latimer at him before I throw Thomas Edison at him. That it's just a natural conversation, not it's February, the Black History books. Get the dust off. Okay, let's jump into some Harriet Tubman, some Frederick Douglass, and some slavery, right? And then February 28th, all right, give me them books back. So we ain't doing that, right? We said we're gonna make it relevant throughout the course of the year.
They always have to see themselves.
They see themselves. Because guess what? The majority see themselves.
Gotcha.
I gotta give you this one more example. I won't even go on here today, y'all. You good with this? Because I don't want to get too heavy, right? So watch this, y'all. Let me stay along this theme. Tell me your name, sir.
Shane Calhoun.
Calhoun?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you for that. You took me somewhere I hadn't planned to be today, but it's all right, right? So listen. 2 years ago, I'm in Boston, right? I'm doing a keynote on December 1st, 2018. So last year, but it's almost over. December 1st. I get there a day early. Watch this, y'all. We talking about this right here. We talking about this. The holes in the photo. I get there a day early. I had said to my wife looks at my schedule on my website, so she knew I was going to be in Boston, right? So at some point she figured out. So I said to her, so as I was preparing to go there, that's what it was. I said to my wife, no, I said to myself, I said, oh my God, I have to fly on November 30th to get to Boston for December 1st. November 30th is my wife's birthday. I can't fly on her birthday. That's like taboo. Hey Kim, I got a good idea. Let's celebrate your birthday in Boston. She didn't know I was going to speak in Boston yet. Let's celebrate your birthday in Boston. She said, why Boston? I said, it's different. Right? So we went to Boston. So then later on, she figured out I had speaking engagement. So she said, yeah, I see what happened here. You screwed up, didn't you? I said, so watch this, y'all. I said, let's go down and take in some of this colonial Boston history. Right? Y'all with me? Let's take in some Boston Massacre history. Y'all with me? So now we go down. Where's the history buff in this room? All right. So where's the person in this room? King Street means something to you.
Coach Murray, where you at?
King Street. You in here? Let me explain this real quick. Thank you. Thank you. You're a rare breed. Let me tell you that. Ain't too many people that do that.
South Carolina State.
There you go. My son was Claflin right next door.
My brother is coming up to me.
That's right. That's it. That's it. So watch this, y'all. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. So we got a day, her birthday. I said, let's go to King Street. Now, so we go to King Street. Now here's my wife and I. I'm gonna show you what we look like. In other words, it's a small area and we're looking for a marker or a monument. We're looking. Hey Kim, do you see anything? No. You see anything? No. I don't see anything either. We're on King Street. See the sign? We're on King Street. It happened somewhere right here because there's the courthouse literally right where this bookshelf is. So now I'm agitated. Here, I want you to hear that word I'm using. I'm agitated for real, me. So now I said to Kim, that's my wife's name, let's go inside. I'm going to find out from somebody inside. And let me tell you what I'm going to find out. Hey, sir, show me where Crispus Attucks died. I want to see the spot. Right? For someone that doesn't know the name, the first person to die for America's independence, not the first black person, the first person who happened to be black was Crispus Attucks, March 5th, 1770. So now I'm assuming there's a marker to show that. So now we're looking. The person, we go inside. Sir, show us where Crispus Attucks died. He says, sir, I really don't know. But don't you work here? I do. It's because of the museum now. So then I said, well, sir, get me your supervisor. I want to talk to your supervisor. I want to know where Crispus Attucks died. Now I'm upset, I'm agitated. So now the supervisor comes, sir, show me where Crispus Attucks died. He says, sir, I really don't know. I think like it would be like right here. He pointed out a window and said, way down there somewhere, I think. He said, I think. You think? Well, he died on King Street. That's not King Street. Well, I don't know, sir. Okay, now watch this. I'm agitated. I gotta keep using that word. 8 o'clock the next morning, I'm on the stage doing a keynote for about 500 people. I didn't use my normal intro. Well, I have a normal intro. I didn't intro the way I typically would with a 500-person crowd. I said, I was on King Street yesterday, as soon as I got on stage. And I was looking for where Crispus Attucks died. And it's not out there. What's going on, Boston? And someone yelled from the audience, the marker is in Roxbury. Now, Roxbury, that's where New Edition is from, that group. Roxbury is the black community in Boston. He said, I said, but he didn't die. I'm dialoguing in the beginning of the keynote. But he didn't die in Roxbury. They said, yeah, but since black folks live, they put it there. But he died on King Street. Now let me get to my point. Here's my point, y'all. Here's why I brought this up. Here's why I brought this up, y'all. Because of all the history on King Street, historically, as an American, it is relevant. Now let's close the lens though. Culturally speaking, all that stuff out here, it's not relevant. Culturally, only this is relevant. Culturally, only this Crispus Attucks piece is relevant for me, right? The other stuff, that's not relevant for me, right? I want to get into history right now. You know that history. I don't need to get into that. But this part, and guess what? The part that's relevant for me, I was cut out of the photo. Now, if I don't know history, I don't know that. I was cut out of the photo. I was 57 at the time. I just turned 58, that's what it was. So, 58-year-old man upset about the fact that he's not in the photo. What about your 15-year-old? What about your 16-year-old? What about your, you got them 7th grade, what about your, what age is that? About 12-year-old, 13. What about them? But see, they may not be able to articulate it the way I articulate it. They're upset about something but can't put their finger on why I'm so upset about this learning. Well, maybe it's because you don't see yourself in the learning. I'm not indicting anybody in here. I'm being very generic. Maybe I don't see myself in the learning. If I saw its relevance to me, culturally, maybe I could lock in, right? But if I don't see where this has anything to do with my existence, my experience, my life, what do I need this for? Because typically you and I gravitate to that which is of common interest. Where is it? So I made a career, to use that word very loosely, my mission of ensuring that children saw themselves. But you know something with that? I needed my teachers to see themselves as well. But ultimately I needed my teachers to see the children in the picture. That meant I had to do a whole lot of undoing and reshaping collectively. Because as long as it's just me, the principal, is culturally responsive, but my staff doesn't have a clue, or my staff is not as passionate or not as informed, then we're not going to be able to get that done on that level. See? So, because ultimately, I want my students excited about the possibilities of learning. And then we couple that with, are they excited about themselves? Excited about the prospects for their future? Are your students excited about the possibilities that are out here for them? See? And think about it. With you having with the world being real, and you having such a large African-American population of students, I'll ask you the question, you don't even have to answer this is just food for thought. Like, you see that back door there? I see it. Let's call that the goal. I see that back door. And all I gotta do is get from here, how many feet is that? That's about like 30 feet between here and that door. So that's the goal. That's to become an international presenter. All I gotta do is get to that door. Okay, here I come. Here I come. Oh my God, oh my God. And the obstacle says ism. Might say racism, right? Might say, or some other ism. It says ism. Oh my God. Let me see. When I was back at Loachapoka, did I pronounce that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Did they give me the roadmap for what to do? Because they did sell me on working hard and getting them straight A's. And my teacher was so credible. I believed in my teacher, and I did. But did they prepare me for this daggone barrier? Man, like, what do I do? It's so wide. That goal ain't all that important, man. Ain't too many folks that look like me doing that anyway. I ain't doing that. let me go get a job at the airport loading suitcases on a conveyor belt or whatever, right? See, here's what I'm saying. I'm not going to confine the education to no books, y'all. I got to make sure the education is talking about life, because I need that youngster excited about the prospects, right? When I started doing this work, I only saw, in terms of an education consultant, there was one black male out here that was doing this work, and that was it. But he was speaking to a different audience. He had a different genre, a different category of content. Those doors were shut closed for me. I wanted to be on all the national conferences. I wanted to keynote those conferences. I wanted to be in Vegas, LA, New York, all in play. But those doors were shut solid. So I had to figure out a way to either get around these tables, to jump over these tables, to crawl underneath the tables, literally, or to break these tables in half and walk through. I had to figure that out. And it took me 2 decades, literally. It took me 20 years to figure that out. But I was just so passionate about the goal, I said, I can endure the 20 years. What about your youngster that wants instant gratification? That wants it now or forget about it? Who doesn't understand that level of commitment to a goal? What are you teaching that youngster? Do you have the audacity to teach that youngster that those obstacles are real? Right? I mean, to this day, folks are like, man, you keynoting that conference? How you doing that? Because for 20 years I made sacrifices. I said these doors are gonna open. They having me up in that piece. That's like they having me up in there, right? So I said, but I gotta figure out how to circumvent the barriers to get there. So then in my role of educator, I said, I'm not just teaching you math, science, social studies, language arts, PE, health, and foreign languages, and so on. I got to teach you how to navigate these barriers, right? How to achieve the same thing as the next one, although it may take a little bit, right? It might take a little longer. Let me share with y'all a secret. Not a secret, let me share, that's meant to say story. Then I'm gonna give y'all a bathroom break. You ever heard of Todd Whitaker? Y'all know Todd Whitaker? Some of you, I know you know Todd Whitaker. All right, Todd Whitaker is like, I call Todd Whitaker the GOAT, meaning greatest of all time in terms of the education consulting business. And I used to sit in audiences and watch this guy. He's a white guy. I used to sit in the audiences and watch him in all these big crowds, and I said, I'm gonna be you one day. I'm gonna be you. The best I could do was a cafeteria at the PTA at them days, and it'd be like, on a good night, 3 parents showed up, right? On a good night. Because I had some bad nights when the only one in the room was me and the principal, right? So, and I may have driven like halfway across Jersey to get there, hoping there'd be somebody there. So literally last week, Todd Whitaker and I sitting in a restaurant in Missouri having dinner. He invited me to speak at the University of Missouri to some principals, and then we went to dinner. And all through our conversation, I'm listening to him, but I don't hear him. Does that make sense to you? Like because he did most of the talking, and I'm listening, but I don't hear him because my mind kept saying, I remember when you didn't know me. I remember sitting in them audiences, I'm saying, I'm going to be you. I'm going to be on them stages in them big prominent conferences. I'm going to be there. Now here I am, we having dinner and you paying for the dinner, right? So, and that's not, I'm not disparaging him, I'm just saying, because I figured out how to get there. So I'm saying to you, with your young people, are you teaching them how to get there? Because that's almost more significant than the content area. Teach it. How I'm on my way, bam. What do I do now? And then when I get around here, stay right there, right? So, okay, okay, I got this. I'm bumping teeth. Bam! I can't fit through here. How am I going to get there? Oh, man, I'll try this way. Stay, I'm going to bump into you. Bam! Oh, they had stepped away. I didn't mean to do that. Right? What am I going to do? If I crawl under him or bump into their legs, you got to teach that. You have to have the audacity to teach them that that back door is still accessible. It just might take a few more years. But if you sell them on work hard and you're gonna be straight, that's not real world. That's like the one that says, like there's a teacher that exists somewhere in this state, right? You're not in this room, but you're somewhere in this state. And you say, man, I love my babies, I love my students. I love them to the extent that I don't see them differences that Principal Kafele talks about. I just see my children. I don't see color and culture and ethnicity, and I don't see that. I just see my babies. Y'all ever meet that teacher? Oh, yeah. That teacher exists. So I just see my babies. I can't get into that. And I say, hey teacher, I hear you. It's very noble of you. But here's the problem. There's two problems, two salient problems. Number one, that little artificial world that you created in your classroom, it ain't real out there, teacher. Because that which you don't see, that world is going to see. Right? So that's number one. But number two, teacher, when you take all of them and lump them together as one, you have diminished his essence. That which speaks to who he is, his uniqueness, her uniqueness. So looking at the racial ethnic component, I don't want to minimize that. I want to accentuate it. I want to celebrate it. Not bring them together and mold them together as one. But I want to use that to accentuate. It gives me a platform and a vehicle to talk about Lewis Latimer, for example. But if you and I create that artificial world, it's not going to be replicated out here, and we have now set youngster up for failure out there. He'll be successful in your classroom, but it won't be transferable out into that world out there, right? So I want to give you guys a bathroom break. I know I've been lecturing and preaching and carrying on, but let me just give you this one thing, and then I'm not going to expound upon it. I just want to put it up here. What is the attitude gap as it relates to staff? Because what we talked about was the student. But staff, the gap between those educators who have the will to be amazing at their craft and those who do not. The gap between those educators who have the will to be amazing at their craft and those who do not. Hey teacher, hey teacher, hey teacher, hey leadership, do you have the will to be amazing at what you do? See, because if you've got the willingness to be amazing, we can't even call it amazing unless the youngsters are soaring up there with you. Or else what's the basis of the word amazing? Phenomenal, extraordinary, etc. Do you bring that will? Right? Is teaching and learning, is leadership, is counseling, whatever it is you do, is it your craft? Is this your thing? That you said, I want to be the best version of myself at doing it. That I hold myself to a high standard at doing whatever this is that you do in your capacity. Are you passionate about these children? Are you passionate about your craft? Are you passionate about your own professional growth and development in those areas that you deem need improvement? See, that matters. See, it's one thing, the student, I need the student to do this, I need the student to do that. But who are you and I? Who are we? And do we have the will to perform at the highest levels every day? Because when we do, like think about it in the world of sports. those coaches that just win, and win. You know who they are. I don't have to drop names. There's certain coaches, they just win.
You don't have to mention that.
I know, I won't. Not in Alabama. Unless I'm in Tuscaloosa, right? No. But listen, those coaches that just win, they got that will to be amazing at their craft. Like the other things around them in their world, that may not even have the same level of importance, but this thing which we call our craft, what we do in the building, do I have the will to be at that level? See, in terms of my own self-measurement, I look at my life in totality, and a lot of things I do, I don't give a second thought. But when it came to that educator part of me, I said, I gotta be the best version of myself at that. I gotta be up here at that. Because if I'm up here, because it's not about me. If I'm up here, that means my students are right here with me. That's the translation. Or else what's the justification or rationale of saying, I'm up here? I'm not up here. Unless they're climbing with me. Unless they're soaring with me. That's when you take that 81 to 100. Because all of you collectively say, we got this. We are ready for this. There are no weak links. 81, we see that. That's the door right there. We see that. So there's 100 to max. So now we going for 100. We're going to show the world. The world, most of the world never even heard of it. Right? Little school down here in the Auburn area. Loachapoka. That's a hard one to remember, you know. When you never said it before in your life, right? But here you are, you said, we're going to show the world. We will be at the Blue Ribbon Award ceremony in Washington, D.C. accepting our Blue Ribbon banner. I tell you this and we break on this point. That blue ribbon is yours the day you say it's yours. Not the day they give it to you. The day you say it's yours. If on October 14th, the mindset collectively in this room is that we are a blue ribbon school, we can compete with any of them. What makes them any different, the ones that have won it, from us? And the answer is nothing. That day when you declare collectively as a unit, as a school, that we are a national recognized blue ribbon school, half the battle is won. Because the first step is just the vision that that's who you are. Don't mind my phone. The vision that this is who you are. Now you put forth the work, the effort, and then they be celebrating you in DC as one of America's best, right? But you gotta be passionate about these kids. You gotta be passionate about your craft. You gotta be passionate about your own professional growth in whatever area that you need to become stronger. Any thoughts on that? What do you think? You blue ribbon? Yeah. You mean it?
Yeah.
Yes. It's yours. It's yours. That's the first step. The rest is easy. But the first is that collective mindset. Let's take a quick break. How long, Principal?
10:30. 10:30.
See you there.